All right, start. Good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is May 14th, 2024, and I will call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
You may. Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Rich Goldman is absent.
Okay, so we have a meeting agenda that was posted last week. I would like to make an alteration under old business, item B, it's Development District 8. I mistyped 9. It has no impact on anything else because it's just an update from activities. And then I would also like to add an item of new business that I referenced. It's in the board packet from a resolution, but it didn't make the agenda. And it's the standard workday. Yes, so the new business E, standard workday. And there is a resolution for that. Standard workday establishment. Item E. Does anyone else need any alterations, additions, or changes?
Just to clarify, under new business 8A, there's actually 2 resolutions that we need to.
Yeah, so we'll just add resolutions,
Yeah.
plural, but they made it and they are available, they are here, they're on the website, so yes, thank you for that. Okay, if there are no further changes, I'll step the motion to approve as amended.
Move to approve as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent, thank you. First up is privilege of the floor. We will go back and forth in person and then remotely. Any member of the public is welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes on an issue of their choice. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us? Okay. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us? Okay, well, we'll have another opportunity in the meeting. That brings us to a public hearing we're holding tonight that was duly advertised. We are taking no action on this item tonight at all. It is simply an opportunity for a public hearing on the potential consolidation of the town's justice courts to a single justice. This was not a required public hearing, but an opportunity for us to hear directly from the public, any thoughts, concerns, or issues they saw related to a potential consolidation, and just to hear their feedback tonight. And so may I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Move to approve or open the public hearing.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there a second? Wonderful. Is there anybody, we'll go back and forth again in person. Anybody who wishes to speak has 3 minutes. And we'll go back and forth, so everybody who wants to say something has a chance to do so. And then we'll hear from Carissa about any comments submitted in writing. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address? Okay. Is there anybody online who wishes to address us on this topic? Going once. Anybody in person or online? Okay, then I will turn to Carissa and do, I see we had one printed out comment in
Yes.
favor.
Correct.
Um,
I'm
So-
Cynthia Menino. We received an email from Liz Thomas that you all got. And Judge Dresser provided his feedback in a letter also. That's it.
And
yes, she signed it off.
Both of them.
Was there Corbin's coming in? Well, maybe she would like to speak on this topic. Can ask her, if it's open, a little bit longer. So, Carissa, would you make sure those get added into those, I know you always do.
Yep.
Those letters attached to the
Will do.
meeting packet. Hi, Legislator Corman, we are in a public hearing, or not public hearing, yes, it is a public hearing. We're just not hearing a lot, on our proposed court consolidation. And before I close it, I just saw you were coming on and see if you wanted to weigh in on that. If you had a public comment.
No, I didn't, but thank you.
Sounds good. Well, we will come back to you shortly then. Well, okay, in lieu of anybody online or in person wishing to speak on this topic and having received 2 comments from the public in writing, I would accept a motion to close the public hearing on the potential consolidation of the town's justice courts to a single justice.
Move to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second? Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. That brings us to, and I'd like to welcome up Delia Yara, who's coming to us tonight for a presentation. Please come up and come sit next to me so you can be seen on screen.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's nice to meet all of you. So my name is Delia Yara. I work with Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services. We're a local housing nonprofit, and INHS does a number of things, probably some of which you're familiar with, the new build on South Street and the manufactured home community and Compass, which is on the north side of town that we just acquired. That is not the part of INHS's work that I do. So our piece is helping homeowners. We help folks with down payment assistance, and we help low-income homeowners with repairs. And I reached out to Caitlin to come talk to you. We have some repair funding through New York State that is new funding. It is called the +1 ADU program. And the intention of this program is to help folks who are looking to either repair an accessory unit that is very far from being livable, or site a new accessory unit. And the funding is targeting low-income homeowners who are owner occupying a property basically and looking to have a secondary unit that is usable for a long-term rental or for family to live in. The funding that we have right now is limited to the city of Ithaca. It's proved difficult to find homeowners because of the restrictions on the way the code is written in Ithaca for accessory units. I can only help someone whose smaller unit is 33% of the square footage of the regular unit, and then the percentage of folks who are low-income homeowners in the city of Ithaca isn't a ton. So we've done a lot of outreach to try to identify people, and we have some folks that are moving forward, but we talked to New York State and we said, we're behind schedule. And we didn't know at the time, because this was new funding, that we could potentially have a broader service area than just one municipality. We had picked the city of Ithaca because it was the biggest numbers wise, and we thought, oh, okay, that might work. They have since come up with a way where we can expand that to serve the entire county. And we would like to do that for two reasons. One, because we think it'll be easier to find folks with less restrictive zoning definitions who are needing repairs to their units, and also because in more rural municipalities, it's easier to potentially find a lot size where you could build an accessory unit. And so we're working with New York State right now. We said, what we would like to do is administer this program countywide and kind of get a sense of what the reaction is and whether people are interested in either repairs or new accessory units. And they came back to us and said, you need to have some support from the municipalities that you're going to be working with. So we received a letter of support from Tompkins County. Thank you. And not all you're doing, but thank you. And then we wanted to go and just make sure that we were talking to folks who would be able to kind of either identify units that are substandard or help us a little bit with outreach to folks who might be interested in building an accessory. So that is why I'm here, and I had a draft letter of support that I forwarded to Caitlin, but mostly I just wanted to answer questions if anybody has questions about that particular funding source and get a sense of whether you think that might be useful.
So I invited her tonight because it is a new source of funding, and so if there were questions associated with it, obviously, anybody who was doing this would have to comply with our zoning, so it's not an abbreviation or, navigation of our zoning, it's simply an opportunity that we could open up in cooperation, with society checks. So I thought that if people had questions, this was a good avenue to get them answered.
Not for that specifically, but what is your guys' annual budget?
I think we're at 3 million-ish in funds coming in and going out. So most of that is like money that, we receive and then re-grant out to a low-income homeowner or spend on building
This
something.
for bigger than
Mm,
that, sure seems.
We,
Do great work. So
we work very hard with
Yeah,
every little pot of money we get to make it go to good use, so, yeah.
You're my number one. Right, charity, if you can get some charity, appreciate what you guys do.
Oh, yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, we're always working hard to like figure out, okay, is there a way to
Yeah.
make this thing
It's a moving
work?
target,
So,
isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, good.
yeah. Yeah, so this is a very specific pot of funding because it's focusing on accessory units, but just while I have you guys. We also have funding for low-income homeowners for major and minor repairs, and generally we're focusing on seniors, but some of the funding sources we have are more flexible. We can help with accessibility modifications, so like ramps, chairlifts, walk-in showers. Our minor repair program, will help with like deteriorated steps, trip hazards, grab bars, smoke and CO detectors, leaking faucets, kind of all of those sort of things. So if we need to replace a roof, we have funding from, generally from New York State or the federal government. That's a longer process because we have to go through an environmental review process and get bids and blah, blah, blah. But if we're putting in a grab bar and somebody has had a change of health and they need that grab bar to be able to be released from a hospital or rehab, we will try to do that within a week. So we work really hard to basically, if we have a little bit of flexible funding or if we have an emergency, to address the emergency as we can. Obviously, when we have larger funding, we have to comply with 1,000
Yeah.
regulatory nightmares that
We
you
are-
all
we are
are
very
familiar with, and so those projects take a longer amount of time. But just to kind of step back and say, I was speaking on one thing, but what INHS does in terms of helping folks with repairs is broader.
And the broader program is available to everybody in the county too?
Yes, yes. So our funding, we're usually running about 8 grants at a time between the minor and major repair, sometimes more than that. And so we have a very sophisticated wait list and we can sort by, this funding source won't help if you're in a manufactured home. This funding source won't help if you're in a flood zone. This funding source requires you have less than $15,000 worth of assets. So we have all of this screening so that we're able to keep people on our wait list. And then when a funding source comes up that matches what they are looking for, then we'll go help them with that. Or, you need an accessibility modification. Okay, we can find everybody that requested that and then go, figure out who we can help with that funding. So.
And I assume there's like, to get all that information, there'd be a pretty robust application form that needs to be.
No,
completed? No.
we try to make it
Alright.
super easy because there's too much paperwork in the world. So we have a 2-page application, front and back, that works for minor repairs or major repairs. And that gives us the basic information we need to kind of figure out where someone might fit in terms of our funding. So
Okay.
it's on our website. You can securely upload it. I have an office cell phone number. If people call me or text me, I will mail them out that application with a return envelope and they can send it back to us and we can input it that way. We do a lot of that because most of the folks we work with don't love a fillable PDF. And so, yeah, the paperwork on our end is enormous, but we try to reduce it for everybody that we're working with to the absolute minimum required.
I mean,
No,
I
that's
would
great.
say that would encourage more people to try and apply as opposed to having a 15-page, like, no, it's not even worth it.
Right, exactly,
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So that's the larger picture and the accessory unit, you know, I think the support we would be looking at from the planning department would be help with permitting and from your code officer with like, if there is an accessory unit that they can think of that would maybe need us to mail out an application and see if we can help, then we would totally do that. We were able to do a little bit of direct mailing in the city of Isabel so far. And different municipalities that I've talked to have been different on whether they can identify those units because, you know, sometimes it's hard to pull it out of whatever records they have. If we are able to expand the funding to serve the entirety of Tompkins County, we'll have like 3 or 4 more projects that we're gonna be moving forward with this round of funding. And then our hope is to get a sense of what the appetite is and how many people would be interested in building or fixing up units, and there'll be another round of funding coming towards the end of the year. So if we can move the project along, then we'll be in a position to hopefully get more funding for everybody at the end of the day, which is what I would like to do. So
I know it's early in this funding, but do you have a, put this program's like, but do you have a sense of, to date, maybe what like the average is for a project, what kind of funding?
So the projects that we're moving forward right now are repair projects. And I think we haven't gotten bids back on those, but I'm guessing they're gonna be right at the program limit, which is $125,000.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of money.
Hard costs and soft costs, yeah, so we have one where the entire back end of the house is like collapsing. Mostly when we're doing repair work, we're doing a roof for $20,000,
Yeah.
it's less.
Steps or something.
Yeah, so it varies between 500 and 25,000 is our general, but this program is a ton. That's why, it is a significant enough subsidy, I think, that it'll put us in a position where someone could actually build. They would likely need to have a loan to pay the balance. I'm not anticipating that we'll be able to get a unit in the ground all in for 125 minus all the soft costs and other stuff that have to come out of that. But when we've gotten a design with our architects, we bid it out to a modular contractor, so we would have to figure out what the site work costs, but our estimate is it would be somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 additionally if you wanted to site a new unit on top of the subsidy that we could provide. So it's not nothing, but also if you were building a rental unit, the idea would be then you would have rent coming in. Or if you were getting a family member out of your own personal space, that might be invaluable to you.
Exactly.
So-
Thinking that.
Or get them to move closer to you so you don't have to worry about that. Also, it's valuable. So however that played out, you know, we're hoping that that is a large subsidy. So we're hoping that it would be enough to kind of like make that workable for folks that are in the income bands that we're targeting.
Is there a name for this program?
Yeah, it's called the +1 ADU program.
+1 ADU.
And I can send you guys the like funding round that we received, their rules and regulations, which are pretty insignificant on the whole compared to the federal funding that we administer.
Well, I didn't, because a letter of support doesn't commit the town to any financial, investment or anything like that, so I didn't need the town board's permission per se on that. Because I think the staff needs are relatively minor and would be largely it's either internal knowledge, of properties that may be eligible. and then the working the building process, like the project keeps forward. But I thought that this was a really unique opportunity to have you here, so I really appreciate that. If is the board comfortable with me sending a letter of support to include Sandy, let's do.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Excellent.
It'd be a good item for personal.
Yeah.
Newsletter and Facebook.
Yep.
Send some links.
Yeah, so right now we're in the application to expand the funding, but I will let you all know if we get the yes, and then, yeah, definitely throw it on the Facebook and newsletter and wherever, and I will make sure that Caitlin has my office cell in case folks have follow-up questions. I'm your person for all repair questions.
That's wonderful to know. That's so important for people to be able to age in place. Those minor changes, what seem minor, but are in fact critical. When you don't have enough senior housing, it's really valuable. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's fun. It's a fun program to run.
I'm glad.
Do you guys have your maintenance staff?
Do we have maintenance staff?
Yeah, when you're talking about grab bars.
Oh, yeah, so we have
Offices,
two
things
minor repair specialists on staff full-time, and that is what they do. So
They
it
do
is
grab bars,
definitely
offices.
not me installing those grab bars. I am unqualified for that work. I just do the paperwork. But yeah, both of the folks that are working with us are just amazing. They're
Are they-
very calm
Are they
and skilled.
countywide or are they mostly?
Countywide.
Okay.
Yep. And every once in a while, we'll do a job or two in Tioga County or whatever, with we sort of, as there's funding sometimes.
Part of this.
But yeah,
Realize you're not here for this, but can you give us an update on the,
oh, what's
what I
going,
refer to as ovals, but
what's
the name of it?
now we renamed it Compass, yeah. That I can give you a little bit of information on, just because I'm involved with some of that funding as well. So we've been improving the infrastructure, roads, sewer, lighting. Ben Carver is the one who's managing that project for INHS, so I'm sure he would correct me with all the things that I'm forgetting, that we have improved electrical, and they're working on designing a really amazing playground. I just saw some of the preliminary designs for that, so that will be very fun. And Ben was out I don't know, doing some gardening project a couple Sundays ago, so they're working on the overall sort of design of the community and infrastructure. And then we have a couple of grants now to replace substandard owner units and rental units. So we're working through both of those. We won't be able to replace all of the rental units with new units, but we have identified sort of the most substandard ones, and we're working on replacing those. And then we're doing 3 owner occupied units this year, 3 next year, and we're looking to kind of scale that up. There is hopefully gonna be some funding coming for new units to be placed on vacant pads, so the community has a lot of vacant pads, and that is part of what our hope is to we know there's a shortage of affordable housing. Stick-built homes that are very hard for INHS to come up with all the funding sources to build, so that 10 is at whatever we're calling the project on South Street now. Are probably the only ones we'll be able to build at the moment.
Present way, thank you.
Thank you. It went through a couple of iterations. So this is another way to basically help people get into a brand new home, and it's exciting. There hasn't been any funding for us to do manufactured home replacement in manufactured home communities ever before this round. So we are working through that process. That's federal funding. So again, painful on the compliance, They have to have a wetlands designation, blah, 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 you know, so and everything takes longer, but we're hoping once we get through the first round, then the subsequent rounds will go a little quicker. But that's very, very exciting stuff to be working on. So,
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Well, then I will be happy to get you that letter of support and keep us posted of whether or not you're able to expand it. I hope you are, because I know there are townships, including ours, that will benefit from that. the
Yeah.
people who need help. So. That's great.
Wonderful.
Thank
Well,
you.
nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Thank you
very
for coming
much
out
for
for us
coming.
tonight.
Yeah,
Great.
Keep up all the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okey dokey. Brings us to, municipal, board and staff reports, which were included in the packet, and any other announcements, so I'm gonna, Legislator Corman, if you are ready, willing, and able, we will come to you first.
Great, thank you. I know Delia sounded like did she leave the building?
You did.
Okay, well, I'll say it anyway, even though she's not there. I've worked on and off with her and she and INHS have helped so many people over the years. So we are so grateful to have them in our community. I'm also chair of the county's Community Housing Development Fund, and we have they have a couple of projects before us asking for, some amounts of funding, and I wish we could help all of the projects. We have, just for an example, just this funding round we're doing, we have $1.4 million requests, and this is just to help out with affordable housing projects, and we only have just over 600,000 available, which 600,000 is a lot of money, but we wish we could help them all. Let's see, so we had our budget retreat, and our working number that we're gonna shoot for this year for the county budget is a 2% increase in the overall. Excuse me, I'm just getting over something. 2% increase of the levy, and that will be because we've had, as you know, but just to be transparent to the community, because we have, costs for materials that are skyrocketing. We've had renegotiations with all of our unions over the last couple of years, and just to be able to pay our staff decent wages and all the other things that it costs to do government and provide services. So 2%, we're going to have to look at some cuts. But we're going to try and be creative and try and really weigh things out, but it's going to be hard because, we know everybody's hurting, so we're going to try not to raise our tax levy too much. For the new rapid medical response, you've probably been hearing that that's going pretty well. Last night at Trumansburg, the Trumansburg meeting, Roden Hart actually had some information. I think I didn't write it down, but it was like over 100 calls that they had, those folks had gone out on already in just a month or two. So that's amazing. And so this year we got funding for that whole program, some through grants, and next year we got to help fund next year, we got $300,000 from Leah Webb's office, and so that should cover almost half of the funds for that program for next year. And I think, Caitlin, were you at the meeting that we had with the municipalities, right, regarding this? Yeah, and so maybe you've said some, but I'll just say my 2 cents about it, that I really don't, I think it's really convoluted to try and figure out how we would have municipalities pay into this system for the rapid medical response. And one of the things that did come out of the meeting is some folks thought, legislators, some of my colleagues thought, well, at least maybe we could get the municipalities to sign an MOU saying they're not going to decrease any of their services. And as someone else's words, I can't remember who said it, but spot on said, well, that's why we're in this predicament, is because we can't guarantee services, whether they're volunteer or paid. And anyway, so I don't think that's a good idea either. I think we should just go ahead and keep providing the service, and it's gonna have to expand too as time goes on because of more needs and lots of different things. Increased age of folks living in the community here. So I'll stop on that, my rant on that. Let's see. We're still continuing to look at, you'll probably hear me say this a lot, over the next year or two or longer. We're still looking at, trying to figure out what it's gonna cost to provide additional emergency sheltering for, folks that don't have, housing. When, the code blue ended, where everybody that needed shelter could just automatically get shelter, no questions asked. So when that ended and it warmed up a little bit and it wasn't freezing overnight, what we found out is there was 80 to 100 people then that couldn't get that type of sheltering, which was typically at hotels. So where do all those people go? You know, some of them are on the street, you know, and we don't know where they go, but we don't have enough housing for them. So we're gonna keep working on that because we think that's something that the county should be doing for its residents. The parks grants have opened back up, and I let the Jacksonville Community Association know that because I know they've applied for the parks grants at the county. We had one round, and those are where we have up to $5,000. Municipalities can apply for them. I think this is our third year doing it, and Jacksonville Community Association, you know, through the town has applied for them before and gotten a couple. So I don't think they applied for it. They did not apply for it for the first round, but we're opening up kind of what's called a second round because we haven't used up all the funds. We haven't awarded it all. So might be hearing from the Jacksonville Community Association, which I'm on that board also. We've been having a lot of security issues at some of our buildings at Department of Social Services and at our homeless shelter in Ithaca. And I've mentioned before, we're looking at a new center of government. And one of the things that might help with is more of our departments are in one building. It might be easier to provide security for people who access our services and for our staff. But another bit of information that I heard, which I thought was a bit disturbing, Cayuga Medical Center or Cayuga Health, they also said that they are seeing at their different locations here, seeing daily assaults on their healthcare workers. So it's pretty scary. We are starting through our whole health and anti-vaping campaign geared towards youth to get them off of the, you know, the vaping little devices, or to have them not start on them in the first place. We have a new YouTube video out on our Tompkins County YouTube page on assessments, explaining how assessments work, because we've had a lot of questions about that. Sales tax. Did you want the quarterly sales tax report?
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
So it's still down. The first 2 months were down, and then the full quarter for the year is also down. From last year, it's down 2.14%. That's for the whole county. Municipalities are down 2.57%. Let me just check my notes if I got everything. Yep, that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much. I want to specifically thank you for the advocacy you did on behalf of Ulysses and the other township you serve. Regarding the rapid medical response. I think it's a great program. I'm super glad the county backed it. And the reality is if every single board, and I've said this publicly, the reality is that if every single board had to go back year after year after year for small amounts of money, the town of Ulysses, the request was for $5,000. We're not talking about real money. But other municipalities, the equations are different and bigger, and if they had to go back and fight it out, every single municipality have to justify the expense. And if that didn't happen, the program could collapse. Is just ludicrous, and so when the majority of the program already being proposed was going to be funded through the county tax dollars, so I really appreciate the clarity that you brought to that. And every single municipal leader was in favor of it being paid for by the county. Because our taxpayers are still paying for it, obviously. But it doesn't make sense to waste the time of trying to do those negotiations yearly. So thank you for that. And also I was happy to see that the Red House, I'm not in town of Ulysses, but I was happy to see the Red House sold. I know your advocacy helped make, I think, a wise decision for Tompkins County on sustainability related stuff. So thank you very much.
Right, you're welcome, and I forgot to mention that yes, that property on Tioga Street we sold, which was great, a single family. It's going to be turned back into a single family residence. It was offices for many years, so it's really cool that a local family who works at one of the colleges is going to turn it back into a single family, for them and their kids. So that is really cool to see it come back to that. And I know, especially since you're with your background as a planner, but you folks might be interested. Everybody might be interested in this. We had at our downtown facilities committee today, which is the committee that is working on our new center of government downtown. We had historic Ithaca folks come today, but we've had them come actually a few times already. So we're really trying to do, what we can. Well, I'll say there's a bunch of us. I am trying to, I'll speak just for me. I am trying to make sure that I listen to historic Ithaca and make sure we do something that's, as congruent with the historic district that we're going to be putting up a center of government and taking down 3 buildings.
Well, we appreciate you being mindful of that, and I will say that as a just as a happy planner, happy preservation. So, any questions for Ann? Great. Do you have any sense? My only other question was, do you have any sense or does anybody have any sense of what's driving these increased salts? Is it warming up of the weather? I mean, it could be just that. Or is there any sense of why these issues? Because obviously this is happening in local governments also.
The assaults. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. I was like,
Oh, sorry.
I thought you said salt, and I'm like, this isn't the time of year we use salt on the roads, but
You're trying to buy
I'm
salt,
trying to
though.
think it through. Assaults. Okay.
That's all. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know offhand, except it's a trend nationwide. And we can see some of the stuff. I haven't really looked it up. A lot of times people do research articles on it, even, rather than just trying to see what's going on here. I mean, obviously there is stuff going on here. But I would look towards research and, versus anecdotal, but I'll just say the anecdotal is more people are homeless, more people, even if they're working, they're homeless. They can't afford a place to live. They're frustrated. There's a lot more drug use. There's a lot more people with mental health issues that aren't able to get enough help or support. And we don't have enough supports for them. The amount of, just like we're talking about affordable housing, the amount of affordable housing, the amount of emergency housing, mental health, drug and alcohol addiction treatment, we are behind on. It's just exponential, the need that has happened in our community, and we are not keeping up. I mean, we're scrambling and we're trying, but we're behind. So that is that is not helping.
Well, thank you. It's good to know we're not alone, and yet also not great to know that we're not alone, so. Nationwide, thank you so much. Well, if, that was very helpful. We also have two committee chairs, present, one remotely, one, in person. Roxanne, would you like to update us on what CSAC's up to?
Yeah, we went to the Tompkins County EOC is starting to annually have a meeting, gets CACs and claimants, task forces together just to chat and at one of their meetings. And so that was just last week on Thursday. So I had to leave early actually because I had to come to the Comp-Plan Steering Committee meeting. But some other members of our committee were also there. And so we gave a little report on all the things we've been doing and heard a little bit about what others are doing. And so lots of others are doing pollinator related things. That seems very popular with conservation councils, and several of the other ones have been working on open space plans and other things that, we've often thought about, we'll get to in the town of Ulysses would be useful scenic view shed type things. The Dryden Rail Trail, we heard a bunch about that, and how that's going. So that's really nice, that they organized that, I like that. And then beyond that, I think I said at the last meeting, at the end of the meeting, that, we've submitted enough things now to the Clean Energy Communities program that we will qualify for $60,000 in funding grants. And so we haven't gotten I got the notice that they're approved as submitted, but then there's another approval that comes and sort of invites you to make the funding proposal. So we haven't gotten that yet. And once we get that, we have 90 days to decide what we want to propose. So, and it can be done two ways. It could be, so it's not 100% guaranteed, but unless the bottom falls out of this program, it is. And so we can either do one thing for $10,000 and then another thing for 50. And the 10,000 is the money will just come straight to the town. But the 50 is over the amount where they just give you the full check once they approve your proposal and you don't have to do anything else. The 50 is going to be they'll give you some amount upfront. I don't know if it'll be 25% like the town hall grant was. And then the other 75% or whatever the remainder is, you get once you submit the documentation that you completed the project. So, but if it's a project that's completed pretty quickly, then you usually it's not quite like the DEC and the Department of State. It was in our experience previously, it was a lot faster. So, one obvious place that we can, and it's to do energy upgrades in municipal buildings and all. I mean, you can propose to try to do something with the general public, but that is another whole process. And that isn't really that much money. So, our committee, at least in ideas, we're thinking trying to just fit into some of the standard things that they pretty easily approve that they like to see you do. And so, we've done a lot in this building already, but not much at all in the town barn. So I'm gonna stop by later this week and chat with Scott and look around. He had some ideas and things, and then we can, bring in Michelle, long range plan and whoever else and come up with some suggestions for the board once we get the notification that we can apply. But we have to think so. And then down the road, we really only have a little bit more to do in terms of action items, and then we can qualify for another $100,000. So, which again would be the upfront small some proportion 25%. So that the board, we'd all have to think more about what we might want to do there. But so we won't do that until we're ready, because like I said, you have the 3 months. So, but on the other hand, there's a lot of talk about that program changing a lot, maybe going away, becoming very different. So in that sense, might be really worth like a big brainstorm to see what we can do with that. So yeah, anyway, so that's that. Right. And I did want to encourage the board to think about buying an electric vehicle because they're, because the money's there already anyway. And we got 5,000 towards it from the last action item, and we could actually use some of this money more towards it too, I was told. But also there's, you can get up to, if the mileage is over 200, which most of them are now, then you get, there's a municipal program where you get sort of like a tax program for taxpayers, like a reimbursement, yeah, it's like a rebate, for 7,500, so, and that's kind of, until the money comes out, so that would really be worth doing now. The board's gonna do it, which I think they said they were anyway. Michelle, I could talk with her some about that, and we have a member of our committee who's very well versed in this also, perhaps help. So anyway, you just think about it now. So that's that, and I guess Linda could probably report on the water.
I was gonna ask her, I think that's right. Linda, are you available to talk
Right,
about water?
I am, sorry. Okay, so as you know, we have been a little handicapped. The water committee has been a little handicapped because of our turnover with the New York Rural Water technical support that we get. But fortunately, last week, we were able to meet with the replacement technical support person, Jacob Gardner. And we had a good meeting. He's been suffering with some technology turnover issues, but he's very enthusiastic. He really is looking forward to working with us because of the folks we have on the committee, the technical expertise and all that all that kind of thing. So that looks good, and he seems really energetic. So we're looking forward to meeting with him and getting going, and hopefully getting a new date for when we can finish up with the plan based on what information he has available. So our next meeting unfortunately won't be until June because of the holiday falls smack on our next regularly scheduled meeting. So we won't be getting together until June 13th again. However, ongoing is the DEC Department of Health folks that are doing the water testing for us are on board, and we had a meeting with them, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where we took a look at the plan that they have for well testing, because just to remind you, they're going to be doing 25 wells in the area and take a look, do a deep test with a lot of areas tested that don't traditionally get tested when people go for well testing. And so we had a good meeting. We identified an area in their current plan that we thought they needed to cover a little more. So they're going back to look at that, but that's scheduled. I don't know, Roxanne, did you hear whether they revised it? Because actually one of the dates they had, Memorial Day.
Right, yeah, they had it the 27th through the 29th, and Memorial Day is the 27th, so we're imagining it's not really the 27th, but the 28th and 29th. Yeah, and probably a member of our committee or two different ones will go around with them, just, in case we go on and do further testing, we'll be real familiar with the way they work with people to get the samples, so we can really have good instructions and all. So they contacted all the people that said they were interested to find out if they would be available during the window they had. And I think from there, they're gonna tone it down to the 5 to 25. So
How many people did we get who were interested?
more than 100.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, they were impressed.
Yeah, they were very impressed, actually.
So it gave us good coverage,
Yeah.
That's the good news. When you have that many, you can be, get a good map. So that's,
Great. Thank you so much for all your work. And also thank you very much for, because I think this was the first This is the first, no, I guess it's not the first meeting we've had, but it's the first report we've had since the true Yuli.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna look
Yeah.
through the rest of it, but
Oh, right,
birthday,
yeah,
so
I
I
forgot about
appreciate that, yeah,
being
that was really
sick
good.
too, but yeah, no, the weather wasn't the best, but wasn't as
Let's
bad
say we
as
are-
downtown. I talked to our clean energy communities coordinator when I was down meeting with him in the climate smart one. They had a whole display and they said things were just like blown away on the comments. Like, it got really, really windy and bad down there, so it actually wasn't so bad up here. And it was great to have all the kids come. Thanks for bringing them. They helped eat the donuts. It was
Yeah,
great.
Give donuts to a baseball team, they'll be gone.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we'll keep doing it. We did talk about thinking about maybe moving it to the next weekend and coupling with it with an Arbor Day thing, because they're,
It's a good
together, they
idea.
fit in the same neighborhood. Then there's not quite so much competition for that weekend, it's, other people do it, so. But we collected a lot of trash again and we'll get a report on it. So, yeah.
Nice, thank you. Wonderful, I was hoping that maybe you could do a comp plan steering committee update.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we had our debrief meeting last Thursday where the board, this is the first opportunity the committee was able to really talk through the interviews that we had had in 3 weeks prior. So there's a lot of really good conversations about the two applicants that we have for the consultants to, for the comp plan. And we're still in the process of working through some individual rankings and then we're gonna tally it together. We talked about coming with a recommendation for this board meeting, but we had been asked by Rich, he wanted to be here for that discussion. And then with the timing, things are working out. I think we're gonna the proposal right now would be we come and provide you, the town board, some insight on the June 11th, June 13th.
Somewhere.
That first meeting in
First
June.
meeting in June.
So that gives us one more meeting to talk internally amongst the committee. See if, it kind of seems like people are split right now. There's not like one's favored or the other. There's good quals for both of them. I mean, both of them are very qualified. But just thinking about what we want the community and what we kind of foresee this comp plan to be. People are mixed on what recommendations they have, so we're gonna just continue to flesh it out and I think are gonna ask another question or two to each of the consulting firms and we'll come to you guys in a month,
June 11th.
June 11th, okay.
And Niels was working still on he made a request to some of the references. that they-
Right.
And so we felt like, since everybody was split and had a lot of different thoughts on both, it would be helpful to get as much reference, other information as we could.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Did you guys consider rebidding it all? What is that?
Well, firms are good. And we extended the deadline, but nobody else responded. So,
Yeah, that's different.
yeah, I think the feedback that was there have been a couple different between Niels and Molly and also some of the members of the committee have reached out to some of the firms that we had reached out and had sent the bids to. Everybody's very busy. So I don't think that's gonna change in a couple weeks or months.
And that will
happens.
delay.
And that'll delay it even further. I think we have two highly qualified firms. So we can't go wrong with either one of them. There's some nuances between the two that we'll figure out which one was the committee was gonna recommend for or present the findings to us.
Thank you. Well, I have youth commission and Three Falls LDC, but Rich is not here. Mary, Michael, is there any reports you want to give before I do mine?
When we covered the water committee, and Niels had a report in there about the planning board, but that's up to me. The question on that was the development districts. Because it looks like the sale fell through for the the Barangas one, I forget what number that is. And then, Moore's has come to us, so. Barangas is looking to sell, so I think we should try to push a little bit to figure out how we're gonna manage some of these, because I know there's. Like Hoskins doesn't exist anymore, really, the ski place doesn't exist, so we should figure out. We're gonna try to just stay home. I know our language doesn't do that,
No. those
so
aren't.
that is something we should.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
that's
for the longer term.
yeah, I mean, we should definitely think about that as a 20, I mean, not trying to push it off, but I
Right,
say
right,
that, but
right.
it's because you know it's
As an
gonna take
agenda
time.
item, yeah.
Yeah, we could bring that as a future agenda item to discuss, and then we would have to allocate some money to it.
Yeah.
Because we probably would need to bring in outside,
Yeah, it's not
Assistant.
like an easy thing.
it's not, and you don't know-
Solution and.
no, call it a day, right? If you'd like, I could bring that to,
You know, maybe like propose it to Michelle or something, as she's doing her work and.
oh yeah, no, I
I'm
can
sure
bring it
she's
in the
gonna have
budget
to talk-
process, yeah,
Right, she's gonna have to talk to Nate probably, and
yeah.
it's not as simple as me talking about it here.
No, I mean, I'm happy to, she doesn't talk much to Nate, I mostly do, but, I'm happy to,
Yeah, what I'm saying is the path forward is not really clear, right? It's
no, I
pretty
mean,
fuzzy.
well, I mean, it's. In order for us to think about that, and if we want, we can talk about it more in depth at another meeting, and put it on the agenda, but I think the process to do it, it truly is just it's a zoning change, so we have to work through a zoning change process with a public hearing and all of those components of it, and planning board review, and all the pieces that would go through that. I think the discernment process is gonna be the time consuming part,
Which?
the discernment process of like what we actually want to do. There are a number of different ones. I think it would be a time consuming process with the planning board. To go through that discerning process, discernment process, I mean, and I think it would require having planning assistance to help facilitate that process. Because between the comp plan and the ongoing work of building of planning and zoning, I don't think that we have the capacity to do it in-house, but I can definitely start the process of looking into what it would take to actually systematically go through.
Yeah, which might wanna ask Niels though. It's not clear to me what would happen with it, so if the owner of Barangas sells,
Mm-hmm.
to sell today. What does that mean for the owner?
They are
Right.
stuck with development district 3 language.
Yeah, well, and you know, as you know,
Yeah.
the realtors, so this is beautiful, and the new owner may not fully realize what they're getting into.
Well, and that's, I mean, unfortunately, that's that is a problem with just zoning and realtors in general. We've had problems in the town of Ulysses in terms of people attempting to purchase or putting money down on properties that can't be used for what they
Yeah.
intend, and so. I always tell people, you really wanna get a good attorney, and I mean, you really, the more land use stuff there is, the more you wanna really kick those tires before you put money down on property, regardless of where it is. But, yeah, it really can be an issue, so, but yeah, I mean, right now, if that title changed hands, or that deed changed hands, they're gonna be stuck with the development 3 districts language. Which, my understanding, and I haven't looked at it, but part of the reason the whole system happened is because of this state DOT right of way. And how significant it is on that property.
So, cause it looks like, she's breaking it up, because I saw one's for sale sign and. You know, cause it's the extensive property around the corner, so I don't know how that would.
Well, that's the shape of the parcel,
I think
it's all the same parcel,
Yeah.
yeah,
Same parcel right now.
Right.
It's like
I think she's just hitting up to
the,
audiences.
right, the one on Halseyville, there's a sign on Halseyville.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what it means, but I just.
Yeah.
Raise it.
no, we have, so that's my knowledge, we've not seen any requests for subdivision, on that particular. And I can give an update when we get to it, on development district 8, on my steps on that, which you probably need to, probably the same info, to congrats me to it. Awesome, thank you, Ryan, do you have anything you want to talk about?
No.
Your sign.
Oh, yeah, well, and the egg
Great,
sign right.
sorry, I
down
didn't think
the
of
line.
that.
Where's that? Did that-
Right next to
Yeah,
When did
right
that-
next to it.
it. They're right next to each
You
other.
didn't see it?
Did it?
Same thing.
Maybe
All
you-
5 of them.
On the
So
side.
89 north and south.
Well, yeah, I only see the one that's.
227.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll look for it.
They're right next to each
Do
other.
they go at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, huh, okay.
That would be a good picture to include in the newsletter.
They're like my new signs on Prairie Road.
Yes, you have to see the sign.
And it's a silly request.
Got like 10.
Did Enos issue a permit?
Very clear.
For the sign.
Yeah, because part of that triggers Michelle's asset inventory. So if you get a permit for it, you know that the sign exists, and then it goes into the database that she's trying to build.
I
Right?
don't know if we
And
had,
so
yeah,
either there or in Scott's, because they used to have it like through your binder. So it's like, I've got this sign here, and he's trying to. or he's not trying, he is replacing the signs and upgrading them.
Mhm.
So that's, we can trigger that.
well, I'll make sure that we have that in our asset database. I do know that Scott works whatever process you need to. for the
So I
department.
know they stopped put it up, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So as long as that's in his, I guess for now, in his three reminder or something, it's just,
I guess, I mean,
long after we're.
they're pretty inexpensive,
Yeah, they were.
so I'm not sure if you count me as a capital asset.
Well, not that it's capital asset,
But
that, you know,
just-
it's X by Y and it says this, and, you know, they can be laminates. 10
Yeah.
Years or something. If they can work out of it. But the thing. Not that it's monetarily that much. but- Great. That's all.
No, I'll make sure that happens. There already has some. Cool, thank you. And then, I was gonna report on youth commission, at the last town board meeting, you raised the question about the, about possible insurance coverage for the
Oh,
skate
right.
park. So, I, directly spoke, with the gentleman who's, advocating for skate parks. I got some legal feedback, got some insurance feedback. And what I did is the process really is to go through the youth commission. So he actually came and presented to the youth commission on May 7th, so a week ago. We had a very, very interesting conversation. I think the struggle, what has really been illuminated is that there's not currently a property owner that has signed off on hosting the equipment. If the town were to provide insurance for it, we would have to have because it's a very unusual situation for the town to provide insurance on property, on equipment we don't own, on property we don't own.
For
So-
program
Yeah.
that we don't run.
For a program we don't run. So that's a really kind of convoluted one, and so we would just need to basically leave a paper trail of responsibility. And so if that were to manifest itself, and I've shared this directly with the organizer, we talked about it the youth commission meeting. I've expressed it with village representatives that we would need a contract with the organization, and we need a contract with probably the village. Because I think that's probably the most likely. And so if it progresses and those, you know, the village finds a location that they're amenable to having that kind of skating equipment, the youth commission is generally as a concept in favor of something. But those are the steps that would be necessary, and then the youth commission we'd have to look at what the insurance costs are. We don't have something allocated like that in our budget for 2024. It doesn't mean it's not doable, but the way our agreement with the village is that we share those costs equally, so we need village sign off as well conceptually for that. So there is a pathway forward. And so, but we had a nice conversation. Am I missing anything from that? Is Elizabeth there?
No, I think you covered. I mean, there's interest, there's definitely support for it, it just logistics need to be worked out.
Yeah.
Location.
Location,
Is the
that's
big
like
one.
the first thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I'm gonna have a follow-up. Ben Carver wasn't able to attend that because he got pulled into something else, but I'm gonna I think we'll end up having a follow-up conversation with him because there was some questions raised about, could it possibly go the Compass? Would IHS be ever interested in something like that? They have the space, they're working on playground, they obviously,
Yeah.
there's a population concentration, which is what, putting this out in the middle of nowhere in the town doesn't make a whole lot of sense if, that's kind of not the. Skateboarding is a much more urban activity. I had a lot of friends who were skateboarders. I grew up in an urban environment, so like it's more well suited than people living in distance from each other, spatially. So, but I think I think it's always good when people can hear what's happening, and I do know that, Enfield sounds like they're working with him on a project, so. There are ways forward, and so it was helpful to understand that, so.
Good.
To be shared. And then just a quick update, because I can't go anywhere, without somebody asking me about Camp Barton. And while I cannot make any public announcements about Camp Barton, because the state is very specific about that they own all, things related to that. I did hear in a public setting from the interim or I forget that it's not the exact title, but that we currently have a temporary like interim commissioner of parks in New York State. And the understanding is the thing has cleared everything. It's now sitting in the AG's office in New York State. And the AG is the final review line, and they are very busy and they will get to us when they get to us. So it has cleared all the other hurdles, and now we are just in a waiting pattern. So we had thought maybe in March, and then we thought maybe in April, and now we're well into May, so keep it posted. There'll be a signing at some point, and at some point it'll be in public hands, and we'll begin the slow process. It's in related to that, I have made my intentions known to the LDC that I want to begin negotiations on transitioning the summer camp program. Oh, yeah, since that was one of the driving.
This year.
Not for this year, no, but next year, definitely not for this year. This year, we're gonna keep writing it out, and we sold out almost immediately. And every year people can't, people drop off and, get on the wait list, and people drop off and spaces open up, but that is what it is, right? There's a shortage of space. If we move to Camp Barton, we've all talked about this, the ability to serve a wider audience in a pretty amazing facility. So those conversations are, even without the park closing, we can start entering in negotiations and start having a conversation about what that relationship will look like. And what our needs are, things like that. We have draft all approved agreements with both New York State Parks and the Boy Scout Council. They're just not signed yet because the closure hasn't happened. So we wouldn't sign anything until the closure happened. But we can certainly start this conversation and find out what it would take to make that transition, so we can start building that into the 2025 budget.
So a couple of questions on that.
Yeah.
One of them is occupancy and maintenance at Barton. Is the scouts have traditionally been down there.
Mhm.
Is there anybody down there that's like, are they mowing the lawn or? is
They're
there-
taking care of maintenance right now because they're the owners right now. So
Okay, so there's no like vandalism issues?
Not
It's
that
like
I'm
the
aware of.
vacant-
no, it's not vacant. They had programming scheduled this summer, and
Okay, good.
yeah, no, they're still responsible and taking care of it. They've got mowing and all that stuff. Once it changes ownership, we will stand up similar maintenance and all of that. So it's not an unoccupied.
So then in the spirit of your wanting to move or get some sort of summer programming down there, does it make sense for us to hire some sort of a planner at some point to say, this is what we own, this is what we could do with it, this is maybe the first program we could put in, and then this is our dream for 5 or 10 years or something like that?
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna be coming. If there's not ARPA money available, I'm gonna have the budget, and I've already identified a potential person with experience developing and running camps programs. And that's where the idea for a consultant comes in to actually
Yeah, I think
exactly
that's
do
gonna be
that.
really important to do.
It
Yeah.
absolutely is, because, Will is, Will his job is full
Yeah,
doing
it's
what.
spread thin, yeah.
Right, and so him going through and creating all of that infrastructure, fortunately, he was able to create a lot of the infrastructure for our current camp, because the town took it over, and. A lot of the policies and procedures, like, we didn't inherit anything really from the village. I mean, it's just, that's not a criticism of the village, it's just what it was. But we ended up canceling, not being able to run programming in 2020. And so he actually had 2020 where he created all that under the COVID auspices and restrictions. And then we decided that it was so restrictive and parents didn't want to live in those restrictions, that we ended up not running it. So he had that planning space though to do this. He doesn't have the planning space, as we talked about before, to stand up a brand new camp with all the different components that come with that. So that's why I'm absolutely, in order to do this, we will have to do that. And what I can tell you too, related to planning, is what the LDC is now, our planned direction is, this is not Camp Barton 2.0. We're not changing the name on it and then it's gonna be just how it's always been. This is basically the door closes on it as Camp Barton. Wonderful, amazing history. So grateful for the Boy Scouts to sell it. And then we're gonna take a breath so we can open it as a state park. And what a state park is very different from a private camp. That's what Barton is currently, even though they have been very generous in allowing public access, far more than I would imagine most camps do. So that's going to necessitate, it's a property that has 90 acres and a ton of buildings and infrastructure needs and all sorts of things. So we're, the general consensus of the LDC is that our first step, we were hoping originally to be able to do the consolidated funding application around the summer. With the closure not happening yet, that window is rapidly closing for us to be able to apply this year, because it would really need to be in clear public hands to apply this year. And as the date gets pushed out farther and farther, it may not be closed before those application rounds are. So, but our plan is to do a essentially a master plan and figure out the phases that we would undertake investment and so we are committed to opening it up to essentially passive use as quickly and reasonably as we can, because we want to be able to, you know, enjoy a picnic or you know, hike to the falls and do those wonderful things. But we're not going to be Camp Barton 2.0, and we're not going to be Dynamic State Park 2.0, you know, this summer. It's just,
So you're gonna need some sort of park superintendent.
yep,
like-
we're gonna be hiring for the first couple of years. Our intention is to hire a consultant. I'm sorry, not a consultant, a contractor, to do, oversee maintenance and management and all of that. And then we need to start staffing up in terms of people who have experience doing the administrative components. We did hire, we have a bookkeeper hired, we hired Insero to do our auditing. We got, and the other exciting news is that just in the last couple of weeks, we did get our 501c3 status approved. So that puts us in a great position to start. Because that, or while the town of Ulysses cannot fundraise, the LDC very much can. So to be able to go after both private and public funding. That's
So we're hiring a property maintenance company, is that? sounds like-
We're figuring, it's most likely we're gonna be hiring a contractor, to, an individual contractor, and then we'll do subcontracts for mowing and things like that. So most likely, you know, I would reasonably expect that we hire whoever's mowing, and I don't know off the top of my head the name of the individual, but the person who's mowing this summer will probably continue mowing for the rest of the season. And then we'll slowly start taking over, the responsibilities, but yeah, we'll have staff to do that. But we can't really start, we have, you know, the general frameworks, we've talked about the, you know, what needs we need, but we can't realistically go higher until we have a firmer closing, because it could be 3 months out. So, yeah, I hope it's not, but
I think it's a 24.
I mean, yes, but I also thought it was gonna be like in April, so, I feel comfortable that if the interim commissioner is saying publicly that it's really, really close, that it's truly, and he's saying that in a, you know, a public environment, that it's really, really close, and we just, you know, it's the final review, and when that happens, we're gonna certainly make sure the public's aware of it. They also are hoping that the governor will be able to come out, and so make a big deal of it, so. Because it's exciting for them to be adding a new park in the 100th year of the park service.
I changed the logo this year.
They did, yeah. So, lots of good stuff, but it's still kind of in limbo beyond we haven't done anything wrong, we're just kind of waiting like everybody else is, to see what's happening. But there's no other reports. Chris, is there anything you wanted to call attention to?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay. And so let's, I think a lot of the work on here, is fairly straightforward. The next item on our agenda is our radio meter opt-out reading feed. And we've talked about this numerous times. This is related to Water District 3. You know, for the public who may be watching, the town, over the course of, starting last year, right?
Yeah.
We started last year, into this year have been replacing the meters, in Water District 3 with Radiohead ones, which allow, then you don't need remote readings as opposed to actually having to physically read them. It's a lot more efficient from a time and safety standpoint for staff. And we've been doing that. The vast majority of the property owners have allowed the town to access the Radioheads. However, we continue to have a few stragglers. We have attempted numerous times to get people scheduled, and again, like the vast majority have. But do you, off the top of your head, do you remember how many we're down to?
There's 9 more people.
And so, I worked with Nate to figure out a logic, for how you establish the fee. You have to have an underlying logic. Your fee has to be reasonable, and the way you determine the reasonableness of it is you do a calculation based on the additional time necessary. Additional time, but, also equipment usage, both of actually doing the work and any administrative, calculations, associated with that. And so, we put that together, in the last, Chris, you did a mailing. When was your last mailing to this group?
Early April.
To let them know that we were moving forward with an opt-out, fee. Again, this is well within the town's purview to do this. And it's also, you know, if the property owner wants to opt out, that's reasonable. This is just, we have to access the meter reading one way or the other. And so when you divide the costs based on the number of properties still in, it gets, it ends up being a little bit more. So I think it was 1848 per parcel, roughly. In the letter in April, we informed them that it was gonna be, the maximum was gonna be $18. So I opted to keep it at that cap. That's not a huge discrepancy, and I felt better staying with what we had told them it would be. So we would be setting with this resolution, we'd be setting the fee at $18 per meter per quarterly reading. And then this would be readjusted as we do our fees every year at the organizational meeting. We will adjust it appropriately based on the amount of time and the number of properties, and it goes down to the granular detail. We already now know the time equation. The equation factors that would change is the cost of the time, right? Because it's salary plus benefits, and so that will have to be adjusted, and then divide by the whole number of properties. So maybe we'll get a few more that'll choose to let us replace their meters. But we've gotten pretty close down to just last year. So, any questions about this? I know we've talked about it a few times already, so.
I would just note that Michael had been pushing for this for years for us to move to radio meters, so your dream is just about realized.
Minus 9. Yeah. But the letter came out in what, 2 more people, right?
Yep.
2 more people, it was 11 before.
Yep.
So.
Well, maybe when there's a charge.
Exactly, no. I wanna.
So for the discussion phase, what I wanted to say is, I appreciate all the work you put into it. But see, this is like near and dear to my heart. So, I don't want this to be a negative thing, but I don't think your fee is punitive enough.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna vote against it.
Okay.
So it's not anything. Cause I look at it also as opportunity cost. You say, what does it cost to do this? But it's not, what does it cost to have our people doing something where they could be doing something else? And so that's where I think, so. And it's been proven time and time again that these radio waves or whatever reason, or if they don't want them in the basement or something.
No argument,
Yeah.
no argument. We just put the equation together.
Sure, yeah, no, I
and
understand.
so-
So I appreciate all the work you and Nate had to put into it, and I hope. you put-
Exactly, mostly Carissa
Yeah, well, I
and.
hope you guys put your labor into that as well.
Well, I feel like with their property taxes,
Yeah.
they're getting my services anyway, so, but I appreciate that. No problem, understood. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then, from one of the 2 people who may not vote against it, but I don't know, because it will be a surprise if there's someone willing to move it.
I'll move that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay, thank you.
No problem. Motion carries. Okay, so, quick update on Development District 8, the recommendation from the planning board is that, that we, so Development District 8 is Morris Marine, who presented last time. Their recommendation was that we allow the alteration. Again, it's a zoning change. So there's a timeline process of, it would need to come, before the town board. It was not, obviously I got news of this. They had a planning board meeting last Tuesday. I didn't, there wasn't time to get the legal language and introduce a local law change, which is what it would be for tonight. So the plan is to introduce that language, at the meeting on the 28th. And at the meeting on the 28th, we would then have to schedule a public hearing if the board is amenable, to making the change, then, with the proposed language, we would have to schedule a public hearing. And so that would be, that the earliest we could do that is June 11th. It's our regular schedule, so right now, that's kind of the schedule, we're looking at a month timeline, from now, to be able to be, that's the closest we can be to taking action. So,
And then depending on the June 11th hearing. If there's questions open, decide what to do then. Would we be approving it that day potentially if
we
or
have
would it be the potential, the second meeting in June, or does that? I mean, does that abide with what they're looking for schedule?
I don't know.
It sounds like it is what it is, so.
I think my guess is that it is what it is. My understanding is that, after we hold the public hearing, and we have the legal language and if everybody's comfortable with it, the board's ready to take action, we could do it after the public hearing. If there are questions, if people need more time, then we take more time with that process.
So was it a recommendation from the planning board that we?
So it's good.
Yeah, it's just like that. Roof.
Yeah, a pavilion thing, yeah, exactly. So it wasn't perceived as being significant. They didn't want to hold a public hearing on it. So it made sense for us to hold, I mean, we have to hold a public hearing. On a zoning change, and that's what this is. So, and the only timeline delay that would be is if, for whatever reason, it's taking more time than was expected, I think the legal language all pulled together, because that would need to be ready next week. So, but that's the timeline that I'm working on, so I haven't heard from Niels that that's insurmountable. It seemed very surmountable at that point, but if there's any changes on that, I'll keep you updated. Our intention is to move it forward on a reasonable timeline as possible, so.
It's a zoning change, so did you secret too?
There,
Short.
yeah, I think short form. Yep. So. But again, like you said, this is a relatively minor alteration, so. Okay, and just I wanted to, a note of good news on youth services. We had, the town board well knows we had a rec specialist position open. The youth commission interviewed Zach Kozlowski. You approved his hiring, and he started on last Monday, and I think he's gonna be a great fit. He's doing a lot of outreach. We're looking at programming soft opening in the next 2 weeks. And then we have a group that was doing programming January through the beginning of March. And so we have a pipeline, and the school's been really great to work with, as they always have been. And so Zach's a great addition. Zach is already is doing a lot of substitute teaching in the school district, and so it's kind of a really good fit for him already.
Is
Being
this
in that
the
atmosphere.
CCE position? No.
So,
Well,
I mean,
That was
yeah.
vacant for,
no, so this, I mean, it's
it's
the,
different.
well, I mean, it's the same work that was previously being done under contract with CCE, but is now in-house in the town.
Okay,
So, we last September made the transition to not continuing with a contract negotiation with CCE at the advice of Tompkins County, who's one of our funding partners. We stood up, we've been standing up internal programming. Tonight wasn't a good fit based on what was on the agenda, but I'm gonna have Rachel come in and talk to you. We've run 2 very successful civic engagement programs, civic internship programs. Liz, were you at the last presentation? Yep. And, I was at the first one, I wasn't able to come to the second one, but, they were working and collected, they ran, the culmination of the internship program was to run focus groups within the school district. Within the high school in particular, with, collecting feedback to be used in the comp plan steering process, or the comp plan process. And it was really substantive and valuable. Part of my contribution was to teach them how to run focus groups. And so I worked with them, on that, and then they actually went into classes and did that. But they also spent, half their time in training. So they got some really great employment training, because these are all first-time work, these were all first-time workers. But in addition to doing that, Rachel is also, taking, youth, high school youth, because she primarily works in the high school, taking high school youth on, working with the school to identify, individuals who would really benefit from, special field trips for college visits. And working with students who, maybe first time college attendees, and for whatever reason, getting them into the different schools. And so she's led a number of college tours, which has been really well received. And so Zach is going to primarily serve the 5th through 8th grade program, or 5th through 8th grade. And for the first time ever, we think we're going to be able to we're going to be able to stand up programming for middle school youth this summer, and we've never provided anything like that.
That's gonna be so helpful.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the population that's falling out of summer camp and current incarnation, and really struggle with having things to do, and this programming is free. And Zach brings a ton of experience. He originally worked for CCE and Primitive Pursuits, and he has a bunch of different amazing certifications. And he's developing programming that's going to be geared towards you doing different days with 5th, 6th together and 7th, 8th, because there is such a huge developmental difference between those two cohorts. And so that's not something we've done before. So I'm feeling it's taken a while to kind of get everything going, but I'm really excited he's on the team. I felt very proud because the county had a failed search for a similar position, and we had a successful one. So it was, not that it's a competition, but it's always good when your search succeeds, and finding somebody who really brings passion to this kind of middle school population, because I'm here to tell you, I would not be the best person to do that program. So I'm glad that there are people who do.
Does he work in the building?
Yeah, I mean, he does substitute teaching quite a bit.
No, but
Yes, he does, upstairs.
So the other question is, how are we doing in occupancy? Seems like we ought to be overflowed.
So we have 3 people permanently upstairs, but those are all, 2 of those are part-time positions.
Yeah.
And then we have our planning and zoning office, and the bookkeeper's office, and my office, and the clerk's office, and the court office. So I think we could reasonably, right now, we have 3 workstations upstairs in the open room, and I think we could reasonably have a 4th, and once we get the 4th, we're gonna have to start sharing desks. I mean, I don't know that we're getting to the point that we're going to have to do that, but that would be the next. That would be the next, but most of our staff works. Like Will doesn't have a physical desk, he does come in and work in the building, but that 4th workspace is really technically his workspace. But he does so much of his work remotely, or in the summer in facilities or in programming, and so he doesn't sit in the office. Like not yeah. So we're doing okay. Yeah. I mean, I think realistically, I don't think we have the funds to expand considerably more anyway. So we might need to build it, a bit at some point. It's going to be some other supervisor's problem. I think, but we're doing okay now because we have such an amazing crew of part-time employees that we find we're doing. So, I appreciate that consideration. And that brings us to the health consortium. You have 2 resolutions. One relates to the approval of the amendments to the municipal cooperative agreement. This is what everybody has to do every year, where they're tweaking their agreements in minor ways that we effectively have no power to, unless we pull everybody out of the health consortium, which I don't think anybody's intention is. And then the other one is to officially, by their resolution, appoint Liz as the delegate and Rich Goldman as the alternate. We did already do this in a town resolution in the org meeting. But I'm sorry,
They need a copy.
but they need a copy and they need it in this form. So what I'm gonna do in the
That's
future,
that special resolution that's someplace
Sample,
else
yeah.
in our
yes,
sample, is that a sample resolution?
But
And
then it's the resolution.
it's a
Oh,
resolution.
okay, all right.
And so I filled it in by hand, and I have Chris, I actually emailed you a better version of it, so it can just be printed from there,
Mhm.
to be signed by me. But it's all real straightforward, if anybody has a question on it, I don't know if I can answer it, but I would reasonably move, both resolutions for approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Well, thank you again, Liz, for being officially appointed by their official estimates.
I'm also taking the joint committee position for the rest of.
Why don't you see how this goes?
Just say yes. Yes.
It's a few more months before the next meeting.
It is. I listened in on the first vote one the other day,
Mhm.
last week. It's interesting.
And then next up this is actually a little bit more is in Carissa's wheelhouse, because, this is what she chairs. So this is the Salo Habitat Maintenance Plan and update, and I just wondered if you would mind giving us.
Yeah. We had a meeting on, I think, May 6th at the Habitats. There's a nice kind of open area with a picnic table and what I like to call the face tree, because it's all kind of gnarled and neat looking. And we started talking about coming up with a maintenance plan. So making a list of things that need to be done, figuring out who's gonna do it. And I think the next step is, I'll discuss it with the DPW and see, what they, get their feedback on other, I don't have any experience with like park maintenance or that kind of thing, so see if they have anything to add and then kind of start to divvy up who might be able to do what. Mary was there, she's on the committee.
Well, things like plowing,
Mhm.
some
What?
2 or 3 slot. parking lot.
And we're gonna do, we try to do like a spring and a fall guided walk, so, it's usually with, Mark DeVocatus kind of is the bird guy and Marvin Fritz is the plant person. So, we're gonna do that this Sunday at 1 PM. It's been, the last 2 that we've done have been pretty successful with like 15 to 20 people. It's really a nice event. Everyone's excited to be out there and you're just looking at beautiful things. So everybody's like really happy. It's a good vibe. So today I think we have like 6 people signed up to come for Sunday, so maybe we'll get a few more. I sent you all an invitation, emailed it to you. And I think that's about it. Any questions, comments?
I guess I mean, more work on somebody, but with what, legislative foreman saying in terms of the grants for parks, is that
Mhm.
something we can go after?
I
For
talked,
some of that maintenance? Or no?
well, potentially, I talked to Darby, our former planner here, who is overseeing that program and. At one point, and maybe the committee's in a different spot than when I talked to her, because I want to say it was like at least 6 weeks ago. We were seeing if it had to be, if there was any planning opportunities, because I think that's part of the challenge is to figure out like. Yes, there's certain maintenance things that have to be done, but is there any improvements or investments we want to make? And I think the committee at that point doesn't have a firm list of actionable items, but so I reached out to see if there was any planning money available. That particular grant doesn't offer planning money, but it does offer money if the committee wanted to do signage or, benches or those kinds of.
Bridge?
Maybe, yeah.
So. We can certainly, but when I say we, I mean, the committee can, I'm happy to help support that. I did not write it, Nancy David put together the burning materials that I submitted last year, and so I worked through that process before. Applying for funds.
Sounds good.
Great, thank you. I already gave you an update about the skate park insurance, so sorry about jumping the gun on that one. And Chris, I was wondering, given the hour, would you like to wait until Rich
Yeah.
is here? Okay. Chris has put together, I think, what's gonna be a really, interesting and helpful presentation on E-code. And, a lot of the features that we may not be taking advantage of, that you may want to take advantage of. Because it's something that gets used quite a bit, at the town. So if we can push that till when Rich is here, I think that would be awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. So if you have any questions about E-code, you could probably let Krista know, because she was very helpful in asking me about my question, which I don't know if the questions are helpful, but I'm looking for the presentation. And then the final, almost final item is the establishment of a standard workday for the town supervisor and town council person. This is the, New York State, and local retirement system. There were changes in our positions. Well, I just feel like there was a change that recently, because it's getting done now. That was mostly on me because I didn't submit my paperwork appropriately the first time. But this is just codifying.
You didn't get yourself in the system?
Oh, no, I was in the system before. I just had to get changed to my new position, and that was where they're like,
Supervisor?
yes. So I was in the system before. So this is, I already confirmed that Michael's all set. So these were because of changes in the positions. So anyway.
I have a question on this. I don't remember having to do any of these before. I thought we just submitted them and everything was golden.
I don't know.
If you submit it one time, you can, if
The first
if
time.
nothing's changed, you can keep reusing that original submission.
But
for
if you
a
feel like
period
your
of time.
workload has increased or decreased, you can submit another one.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Good question.
So I was gonna say, I'm like, that sounds like a reasonable question that I can't answer, so I'm really glad both of you were here to answer that. Those answers sound very reasonable. So I was told to submit, to do this, and it had to be done because there were changes in these positions, and so that was. What,
So we're really lucky to have Lexi on these,
oh, yeah,
because she's like.
Yep.
It's easy for her, you know. She
exactly,
goes, oh, yeah, I know what to do.
yep,
So do I need to move that?
yep, this needs to be moved,
Okay.
so. Second. All those in favor? Aye, thank you so much. And Chris, I don't think you need anything from me on this, this is just a you
Right, yep,
thing,
so
so,
post it.
nice that I don't have to do it, okay. Then next,
Thank you both for the addition.
and
Mine didn't change.
I don't know why yours was done, but I don't, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're not doing,
You didn't do it originally?
I did,
Oh,
so why are you on there?
I don't know, but she said it needed to be
Maybe it
done.
never got submitted or something,
don't
who
think
knows?
This
You had a year on before.
year.
yeah.
Oh. Okay. No, sorry. Carry on.
I can check on that though, and find out what
You
happened.
can. You can. Well, Lexi can help you. You can go back.
Yeah,
You're already aware of that?
yeah, I had talked to her about a couple of things. That would be it.
I would suspect we didn't do it properly previously, would be my guess, having never seen the lease before, or, you know. I don't know, I can't. Your time is there with money, so I can't speak to that side, so I think we're doing it right now, so. But that doesn't mean they weren't submitted before, so I don't know. So thank you on that, we've got, town buildings will be closed for Memorial Day. And then we have our regular meeting, on May 28th at 7, and then we have our training day on June 6th. And
I don't know September.
the whole day happens longer, but this is the section that's only for the mandatory, for town officials. So I can tell you that the schedule right now is to do ethics first, followed by sexual harassment, civil rights, so that the people who are doing the sexual harassment training through an employer that follows New York State law, they can peel off, so, it reasonably be about an hour commitment, on the ethics side, so.
So. 30 years.
So last year it was, from 11 to 1, and I requested that this get booted up earlier into the day, so it's for people who were working, like, it's coming in at the lunch hour, I thought was, in retrospect, it's not particularly sensitive, and so trying to get it as early as possible so people could peel off. And you can also attend remotely, like you don't have to be here. There's still big lots. Absolutely.
Well, I'll be here.
Exactly.
Okay, then I'll be here, yeah.
Yep, well, come on down, because we have food, we do, yep, and so then after.
I'll guess then.
So we'll have breakfast, we'll lead into breakfast. And then, we'll do all staff training is gonna run probably till 1-ish. Which is how long it ran last year, 1 to 2, or maybe 2 o'clock last year, I think it was, yeah. And so it's a sizable day, and then it's not on the calendar, but, later that day also, there's going to be an open house at the library. I pushed the youth services folks to do an open house to introduce themselves to families and the public and things like that. So, more information will be coming out about that, but it's because, and I can't tell you exactly what time it is, but I know we have the library reserved for that evening. I want to say it's 6 to 7:30.
Let's get this June, that is the third one group conference.
Oh, jeez.
It's busy.
There, no matter.
So anyway, there might not be necessarily a lot of overlap with other meetings that are happening, in population, but, and then June 11th is our regular meeting. So that brings us to approval of the minutes. Chris had posted meeting minutes from, April 23rd. Does the board have any changes needed? Okay. Awesome. Second, all those in favor? Aye, thank you. So the past board notifications, so it brings us to payment of auditor claims. So
I found a claim in there that it was, the voucher was for $550, the bill was $555. It was for sports jerseys or something.
Mm.
I'm reading 550, am I misreading it?
Oh. Fine. Well, on the email, it says $555, so I'm not sure. Oh, was that Will made the typo? Maybe. Oh, and I multiplied it out actually. 37 times 15 is 555.
That's interesting, so I wonder who did.
I think Will submitted that along with the bill or the email
Mhm.
that has the
Same
charges.
authorization.
So that you're right, so he did this incorrectly, so it's 555.
Yeah.
So,
Well, just to save getting a bill for $5.
oh, absolutely, so I've never made an alteration, can we just alter this, Krista? By $5?
Or add
No,
$5 to
the
the,
check's already printed.
oh, is it? Oh.
I mean, I guess you could
Could have pulled that one.
prove that she can probably print a new check tomorrow.
Just void it and put another one.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
The voucher number.
yeah, it's voucher 222. Thank you for catching that. Or sorry, not Lexi. Thank you for catching the mistake, Mary. Sorry. It's been a very long day. So that brings us to 153, 187 and 36 cents. Please double check my $5
now.
Yes.
Easy.
That was like
$4.90.
And then. To make sure Will knows who to thank for catching that, and then voucher. 222. Okay. So. We'll pull that one off. Okay, so let's amend this voucher. Resolved that the Ulysses Town Board has reviewed and approves payment of claims for vouchers for 190 to 276 in the amount of $187.36. Are you moving it?
She moved.
Oh.
You moved it, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you for reviewing it, and that is clearly, you are clearly reading your material, so thank you very much, because a bunch of other people read this too, including myself.
Yep.
So I will flash that.
Takes a village.
Big old star. Okay. That brings us all the way back to privilege of the floor. And I love our online audience, but would you like, is there anything you'd like to say?
Actually, I do. I'm not quite sure. I just want to raise it, which is, I think it's really great. All these services things that you're doing and expanding, but it has been raised to me a couple times regarding the comp plan and getting having that be part of input that we're getting. That it's not just I'm sure you've all heard this, it's not just the Trumansburg Central School District that cover Ulysses and Ulysses taxpayers and stuff. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's so much easier here because we're up there, but it might be just worth thinking about brainstorming with the program people, if we could figure out how many Ulysses residents are in the Ithaca City School District versus Trumansburg, just some way to have more outreach to the programs that aren't during the day, that just to let them know if they wanted to come, just to show an awareness that, and maybe some outreach that there are two school districts here, because there is some sensitivity to that, but I mean, I think it's great what we're doing for sure. I don't mean to be criticism. Thanks.
No, I appreciate that. I didn't include it in my report, but we're specifically also reaching out to the homeschooling network. And because that's a population that's not connected to the schools, but yet can cover that demographic. And all of our advertising will also go out in the newsletter that goes townwide. The general number we work with is that approximately a third of the town geographically is in the Ithaca City School District. And so we do know in our recreation program, we are a bigger catchment area than just the Trumansburg School District. But getting access, the challenge in doing in-person recruitment in the Ithaca City School District, that does become an access challenge that I don't think it's necessarily insurmountable, but it's something certainly worth to put on the radar screen of how to get that information out to families that live there in a way that's actually meaningful to them without blanketing. Yeah.
I agree.
It's a great
It's a
question.
challenge.
No, I appreciate it.
Because it really
Yeah.
is worth thinking about, or maybe, Rachel's really great, so maybe she can brainstorm some.
Well, and the school district has students that don't even live in towns, kind of.
Yeah.
Skylar and Seneca, so.
Trumansburg does too, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's complicated. but
It is complicated.
You don't want it to seem so heavily always just. Anyway, thank you.
I appreciate
for all
that.
that. I think it's great. So obviously you've been really important. Everything else.
Well, it wasn't related to your comment, but we're also doing it. It's not increase the cost of services. We actually are, the service provision costs are in line with what we used to contract for. So even though we brought it in-house, we're actually have expanded, we're on the track to expand programming at a reasonable price point. So there are some financial benefits to doing it as well. I appreciate it. Thank you, Roxanne. Excellent. Well, if there's nothing else, then.
Sorry, Rich isn't here.
Hang out. Well, someone, so we have to hang out until, I don't want to hang out until he gets back.
Can we call him?
So
Move to adjourn. We need to
I say it Rich like.
move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn. We need a second. Awesome, thank you. Court, we've got court coming, right? No court this week?
No,
We can leave.